Ramachandra Paraje Sharanam Bali ki trasaka pisha base girijata Mahaprabhu Pantini.
Word Amrita means the nectar of immortality in Sanskrit. We can see where this comes into play in the English language. Sanskrit, as some of you know, is the mother tongue. Amrita, the A at the beginning of Amrita means not. So as in the word asymmetrical or asymptomatic, those words mean that not symmetrical or not symptomatic. The word mrit means death, and we see that in the word mortician or mortal itself, or the word martyr. So the word Amrita means not death or immortality. And so the demigods and the demons work together to produce this nectar of immortality, which is interesting, first of all, because they're working together, which does not usually happen. It has happened in other circumstances, but they're usually fighting each other. However, there was a point in time where the Asuras were conquering the demigods, and so they went to Lord Vishnu to make a deal with them, and Vishnu told them that they should all work together to produce this nectar. It's very crazy how they came to produce this nectar. So there's this gigantic ocean of milk, the milk ocean, and you think of, you ever seen Amish people or seen what life was like in the 1800s? You picture a gigantic butter churn where they have milk inside of this container and there's a churning rod to actually produce the butter. Well, instead of a churning rod, they had this gigantic mountain called the Mandara Mountain. And this mountain was inside of the milk ocean, and they spun it around using a giant snake. The snake's name was Vasuki. He was the king of serpents. And so the snake was actually a pulley on this mountain that they used to churn the mountain back and forth. Now, it's sort of interesting that when the demigods and the demons were going to get the snake to churn the mountain, Lord Vishnu gave the demigods first choice as to whether they wanted to take the head of the snake or the tail of the snake. And the demigods went to the head of the snake, but this made the Asuras jealous. They wanted to have the head of the snake, and they wanted the demigods to take the tail of the snake. So Lord Vishnu allowed them to switch places, but this really proves that be careful what you wish for, because when they started to churn the mountain, the snake started to produce so much heat from the friction from rubbing against the mountain that the snake started to breathe fire. So it's a very classic example of be careful what you wish for. I had a friend, he had a very powerful third eye. He was very good at manifesting things, but sometimes the things he manifested were not to his benefit. So we were in Boston one time. We were at his step sibling's house, and he wanted to manifest some LSD. He ended up manifesting this LSD out of nowhere. We weren't out in the city. We were just at this guy's house, but somehow we found someone who had this LSD. But by the end of the night, I had to bail him out of a psych ward. So very similar to the Asuras, be careful what you wish for. Anyways, the other cool thing about this pastime is that it shows how much we actually rely on God to make anything happen, especially a grandiose task such as this. And you see more incarnations of Vishnu in this pastime than I think any other pastime that I know of. For example, the tortoise incarnation of Vishnu, when they started to churn the mountain started to fall into the ocean, and it would have thrown off the whole operation, but God turned into a tortoise and placed the mountain on top of his back, and so the shell of the tortoise served as a pivot point for the mountain, which was the churning rod, and the snake was the pulley. So that's pretty cool. And so there's a lot of theories as to what Amrita is in the modern context. It's sort of like soma. If you ever heard of the soma rasa, which is this drug that the demigods take. There's different people who think the soma is, some people say it's magic mushrooms, some say it's blue lotus tincture. Amrita, I've heard it also described as, first of all, kheer, which is a milk product. Makes a lot of sense. Kheer is usually a sweet milk, sometimes prepared with rice. Also, people think it could be some sort of kundalini action within the body. Your kundalini rises, and if you're a male, your seminal fluid goes up to your brain, making you immortal. There's also a theory about Shivambu yoga, where people use different urine for different applications, and the urine turns into Amrita. So that's kind of cool. There's other incarnations of Vishnu. One is Dhanvantari. Dhanvantari is a medicine giver. He's like basically God in the form of a doctor. And one of the life hacks is that if you have any sort of illness, if you chant Dhanvantari's name, your illness will go away. So I encourage you all to try that. Even if you don't pronounce it correctly, you still probably will manifest something. And then another incarnation, which I mentioned in another video, is Mohini. And Mohini Morti is God as a woman. So at the end of the churning of the milk ocean, the demons, the Asuras, which is loosely translated as demons, they steal the nectar of immortality, and God becomes a woman to get the nectar back to the demigods. And you can see exactly why he incarnated as a woman. And if you don't know, you can check on the other video. So that pretty much summarizes the churning of the milk ocean. It's very interesting that the demigods and the demons teamed up to produce this nectar. And if you read about it in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, you can see how much that Vishnu actually comes into play in accomplishing this grandiose task. So I thank you all for tuning in, and may we all have a taste of the nectar of immortality.
Ravana Trasada Sia Kosava Rakshasi Soka Isoka Niwa Tais Mahanumana Mahaprabhu Jaya Maharaja Nicharma Chahat Siya Soka Sogi Sude Prabhu Mudrika Soka Niwa Kuna Injana Te Jagame Prabhu Sankata Mochana Namatiya